Hi, we are back in Mumbai for another episode of This is My Architecture. I am Abhishek from AWS, and with me today I have Ravi from Innovaccer. Welcome, Ravi.
Thanks, Abhishek, for having me.
So, Ravi, tell us a bit about what Innovaccer does.
Yeah, so Innovaccer is a leading healthcare data company focused at delivering efficient care. We have large and small customers from whom we have activated data successfully.
So, when you say customers, you are primarily dealing with hospitals?
Yeah, so hospitals, small clinics. So just to give you a perspective, we have 500 different geographical facilities from which we are extracting data. There are 10 million patients with around 20 billion records, and the whole platform caters to 10,000 care providers.
Wow, that's a significant number of patients and healthcare providers we are talking about. You guys are really innovating, in healthcare. So, tell us about some of the challenges that you face.
Yeah, so a decade ago, US healthcare started digitizing patient health records. Now, the digitization did happen, but it all ended up with having multiple EHR systems in place. Now, each of this EHR system has a different data model, different way of accessing the data, and there are different feeds that are coming to us. Now, to provide a 360-degree view of the patient about his medical information, we need to transform this data into a unified canonical data model.
And that's the problem you're trying to solve here today.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So, why don't you take us through the architecture?
Yeah. So, typically, we extract data from EHR systems and hospitals and put them into a S3 bucket. Now, once the data reaches the S3 bucket, the whole data processing happens. So, our EMR jobs extract data from S3, do some data parsing, data messaging, data massaging, and then it's again put back into Redshift. Our EMR system also pushes the data into our correlation engine. Now, once all the data has been processed, the data is synced into our application data store, that is Aurora.
I see. So, you've sort of automated the entire data processing pipeline here, and I see you're using number of services. So, can you tell us a bit more details in terms of what EMR is doing and what Neo4j is doing here?
Yeah. So, AMR takes care of data parsing, transforming all the data that we are receiving from different sources into a single data model that we have, and then we utilize Neo4j for our correlation engine. So, you receive a lot of information of a patient from hospitals, clinics, and all those locations. Now, to uniquely identify a patient and index them and deduplicate them, we use this database that is Neo4j.
I see. And was EMR always your first choice, or how did you evolve into EMR?
No. So, frankly speaking, EMR was not the first choice. We were using Hadoop ecosystem for it. There was a SDFS layer which had all the data instead of S3, and there were Spark jobs running on EC2 servers to process all this data.
Okay. So, so once you went to EMR, so you started leveraging S3 as your
Yeah.
distributed storage, I'm assuming. That would have translated into significant cost savings.
Yeah, so we have actually reduced our cost by more than a half.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And then I see you're using Neo4j, Redshift, Aurora. So Neo4j is a graph database here.
Yeah.
Can you share some insights into it?
Yeah, sure. So typically, when you see Neo4j, you would presume that it's a data storage that we are using Neo4j for.
Okay.
But in our case, we use Neo4j for our correlation engine. So when you receive a lot of data from patients from different sources, we have to deduplicate the patients, and since Neo4j provides out-of-box algorithms like Levenstein, weighted Levenstein, and fuzzy matching, we have utilized all those algorithms to actually identify that this particular medical record belongs to this patient, and these two patients are the same patient. And once all the processing has been done, it is actually transferred to Redshift, which is our OLAP system.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So
Yeah.
what does Aurora do here?
Yeah. So once we have done all the analysis, the data is inserted into Redshift. We use Aurora for powering up our applications. So from Redshift, data is synced into Aurora, and then all the applications utilize this information and power up the applications.
Okay, and these apps are then used by your various consumers, right?
Yeah, so typically we have care, in our users are care providers, doctors, and health coaches. Now,
Interesting.
these all consume data and get insights about all the patients that are there, their medical information, their health records.
So these get to see, the final truth about the data, about the patient,
Yeah.
the complete picture basically.
Yes.
Okay, so this is great. I also see Amazon Connect here, right? So tell us a bit about how you're using Amazon Connect.
Yeah. So a typical use case would be once the data system has identified and tagged patients who require medical intervention, a care provider, typically a health coach, would call that patient and would request for a visit or to take his medications on time. Now we have removed that flow, and what happens is once we trigger that, once we get that information, a workflow is triggered, which actually calls a contact flow in Connect, which eventually calls the patient and conveys the message that was to be said.
Great. So this is, I think, really clever. So you've gotten rid of the human intervention part,
Yeah.
and you're proactively reaching out to the patients and letting them know what is it they need to do next. Right?
Yep.
This is great. So what's next on your roadmap?
Yeah. So as you see, our applications are on a single tenant.
Yeah.
So eventually we would want to move to a multi-tenant architecture as a SaaS platform, and we would want to use containers. So we are looking at ECR and EKS. Also on the data processing and analytics layer, we would want to use SageMaker to do some predictive analysis and to predict health outcomes for a patient.
That's great. I mean, so you want to optimize this layer basically,
Yeah.
go for a microservices architecture and build a SaaS platform. And then you want to, that's where SageMaker will come in. You have your data in S3, and using that you can build your models, train your models, and, give better insights.
Yeah.
Great. I think, you guys are really innovating, in healthcare, and, there's plenty of good learnings out of this architecture. Thank you very much for coming today and sharing your architecture with us.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching. This is My Architecture.